there will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better.
Okay.
What to do about mass unemployment? This is going to be a massive social challenge. And I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
Universal basic income.
Universal basic income. I think it's going to be necessary.
So it means that unemployed people will be paid across the globe.
Yeah.
Because there is no job, machine, robot is taking over.
That's simply and I want to be clear that these are not things that I think that I wish would happen. These are simply things that I think probably will happen. And if my assessment is correct and they probably will happen, then we need to say, what are we going to do about it? And I think some kind of a universal basic income is going to be necessary. Now, the output of goods and services will be extremely high. So with automation, there will come abundance. There will be almost everything will get very cheap. I think I think we'll just end up doing a universal basic income. It's going to be necessary. The harder challenge, much harder challenge, is how do people then have meaning? Like a lot of people, they derive their meaning from their employment. So if you don't have, if you're not needed, if there's not a need for your labor, how do you, what's the meaning? Do you have meaning? Do you feel useless? That's a much harder problem to deal with.
50 days, that's into September, that Brics have to be able to come up with a complex payment system that people from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and the new members like the UAE, Iran, and others, Indonesia, they have to now come up with a plan to be able to sort this out. That is what you can get out of Trump's statement in the past few hours with Mark Rutte, the failed European politician, now Secretary General of NATO. Trump on Ukraine is clear. He's not going to send any weapons to the dictator Zelensky to help in the proxy war on Russia through Ukraine. That's Biden's war, the Democrats' war, not his war. He will, however, on top of the tariffs charged on these Western European NATO members, massive tariffs that he's charging, which is already hurting their economies, he's going to charge them to buy US weaponry, probably so-called defensive weaponry like Raytheon Patriot batteries, which in any case get destroyed as soon as they arrive in Ukraine, if you actually understand what's going on in Ukraine and don't get your news from the totalitarian news media in Western European nations, where any sign of dissent away from Zelensky is somehow considered unpatriotic or somehow not for the good. Of course, can anyone trust Trump now that he broke the JCPOA in the first term and then bombed Iran? That his own MAGA base now believe him to be some sort of Israeli Mossad agent, as we can all witness as regards the massive amounts of American public money being poured into Netanyahu's government to continue the Holocaust in Gaza. That may be for another day. But as regards the threat to this planet, the annihilation that would surely have ensued should Holocaust Harris have become the president of the United States, it seems no. Trump doesn't want that nuclear brinkmanship that was redolent of the Genocide Joe days. So 50 days before possible third-party sanctions on Russian partners, they would of course be neutralized instantly by any Brics form of payment system, which was discussed in Rio under the host of Lula da Silva at the recent BRICS summit. And meanwhile, Russia's economy, where is Trump getting his information from? The Mossad stenographer, Ratcliffe, head of the CIA, Marco Rubio, who seems to want all but war with Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, he's getting the wrong information. the rest of the world can prosper through these Trump decisions. Western Europe, as witnessed by anyone, if you visit the cities of Western Europe, their decay, their deindustrialization, it's not good days for Western Europe. And hopefully this war, the proxy war on Ukraine, on Russia through Ukraine, will be over soon.
Order payment system aimed at reducing reliance on the US dollar, known as the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, or CIPS. This platform allows banks and financial institutions to process transactions directly in Chinese yuan, also called RMB. Recently, 6 new financial institutions joined the system, including South Africa's Standard Bank and the African Export-Import Bank, marking a significant milestone for Africa-China trade relations. This means that African countries can now conduct trade with China more efficiently, avoiding costly currency exchanges through the US dollar. The move supports China's broader strategy to internationalize the yuan and challenge the dominance of Western financial networks like SWIFT. At the same time, Africa is embracing alternative payment systems to promote regional trade and reduce dependency on foreign currencies. Initiatives like the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System already enable direct transactions between African countries in local currencies. China's entry into this space not only strengthens its economic influence, but also offers African nations new options for smoother, cost-effective international trade. As global financial dynamics evolve, Africa is emerging as a key battleground for currency and payment system innovation. This partnership could reshape trade patterns and bring new opportunities for growth across the continent.
Mocked the Brics alliance, calling it weak and divided. But now, one of Washington's most powerful think tanks, the Hudson Institute, has quietly admitted the truth. Brics is becoming a real threat to U.S. global dominance. In a new report titled How to Counter Brics and Preserve Dollar Power, they compared Brics financial networks to shadow systems, claiming they could undermine the dollar's control over world trade. But what's really happening? The Global South is simply saying, no more economic dependence. Countries are moving toward new currencies, new banks, and new trade systems that aren't controlled by Washington. Yet instead of adapting, the report urges the U.S. to tighten sanctions, block access to global payment systems, and pressure Brics nations into compliance. The irony? These same aggressive moves are what pushed nations to seek independence in the first place. The world is changing, and Washington knows it's losing control of the game.
Already arrested and they are in court. Those that have not been arrested, unfortunately, we're not in a liberty to talk about them. You will see that the big 5 on this graph are those that are marked with red on that picture on the left. So that whole group, the only names that we are making it visible here are the 2 names. And that's a name of a Vusmus Matlala, who's known as Cat, as well as Katiso Molefe. Both individuals have been to court, and I think you are privy to the court processes related to their cases. We have the other 3 that we did not reflect here. They are known. Their names are known. I must say, Honorable Chair and members, these are tenderpreneurs. These are the people that the government has been awarding tenders to. They are quite big financially. They are part of this whole lot. We did not put their names because we did not want to implicate people before they appear before court, except the others. The place that we feel comfortable to talk about it, we name the names. And the others that we're not comfortable with, we did not put the names.
Issued a damning report on the situation in South Africa. The report was published by the Bureau on Democracy, Human Rights and Labor within the State Department in Washington, D.C., after having visited South Africa and having had a variety of engagements with stakeholders in South Africa and, of course, investigating the matter on their own behalf. The report concludes that there was a severe deterioration of the human rights situation in South Africa over the last year, that the human rights situation has significantly worsened. It describes the Expropriation Act in South Africa as substantially worrying. It finds that the economic freedom fighters are encouraging farm attacks, and it concludes that the Afrikaner people and other ethnic minorities are being targeted as a result of the deterioration of human rights in South Africa. Now, just a month ago, I was in Washington, D.C. on behalf of Lex Libertas after we published a report entitled Reclaiming Freedom. The report published by Lex Libertas explains that the crisis in South Africa could be summed up under three headings. Firstly, a very destructive policy framework. Secondly, general state failure. And thirdly, the persecution of minorities. Our report goes on to conclude that the underlying problem is that the South African government has become significantly detached from realities on ground level, and that the underlying solution ought to be a decentralized political system. During this trip to Washington, I engaged with a variety of stakeholders on behalf of Lex Libertas, including a representative of the US government, and particularly this office that published this report, including politicians, researchers, think tanks, media outlets, podcasters, and so forth. Now, we are not happy about the situation in South Africa. The situation in South Africa is indeed severe, and the findings by the State Department are indeed correct. But we are happy about the fact that the crisis is now increasingly being exposed, because the first step to tangibly addressing the crisis is to recognize it for what it is. And it does seem as if everyone is willing to come to the table except for the South African government, the ruling ANC, and its allies. This is a very important step, and even though a report like this by itself does not fix the crisis, it is a very important step towards working to a solution. Now, one can only hope that the South African government, that is already under significant pressure, would respond appropriately. We do know that the South African government is in desperate need for increased revenue, resources, and so forth, and that the tariff situation has placed significant pressure on the South African government. We have also recently heard the ANC saying that they want their members to stop chanting "kill the boer, kill the farmer," which gives an indication that the party might just have the capacity to bow under pressure when they have no other way out. Now, one can only hope that they would respond appropriately. There is much work to do, but this is indeed a big step forward. Lex Libertas has already issued a press statement on this matter, which is available on our website. There is a lot more to be said about this, which will be said in a follow-up press statement that will be issued.
And accused President Cyril Ramaphosa of telling what he called his the greatest lie, a lie so serious that, if proven, could place the president in direct confrontation with the law and potentially even send him to jail. Accused Ramaphosa of deliberately misleading the nation on critical matters surrounding state resources, accountability, and the infamous Fela scandal that has haunted his presidency for years. According to Mkhwanatsi, Ramaphosa's earlier testimony that he had no direct involvement in the questionable movement of foreign currency and that his business affairs were handled transparently was nothing short of a carefully constructed deception. What made Mkhwanatsi's statement particularly damning was his claim that he has evidence contradicting the president's sworn declarations. This is not just a matter of politics, he thundered, this is a matter of criminality.
I don't know him.
Because the real state catcher is happening right now under your watch. Mr. President, South Africans are confronted daily with the evidence contrary to anything that comes out of your office and out of your statements. So if integrity is truly the foundation of your leadership, then transparency should not be a threat to you. Would you then submit yourself to a publicly broadcasted lie detector test to prove to this nation that everything you've said today and in all your presidential speeches is indeed truthful in all aspects? Thank you.
You may respond, Honourable President.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I don't know how a public lie detector test works. and maybe the honorable member can enlighten me on that after this session.
I was so disgusted when I heard him spewing some of the worst kind of nonsense, even for the ANC.
In addition, tourists from Nigeria are now able to apply for a visa without even submitting a passport.
He has the audacity to say this after everything that has happened in this country, after everything we have all seen with our own eyes. He has shown how he does not care for the life of the average South African. Listen to this rubbish.
We look forward to seeing more Nigerian companies investing in South Africa. In fact, we want to see Nigerian products on the shelves of South African shops. Our efforts to create a favorable environment include our simplified visa process for Nigerian business people to travel to South Africa. Qualifying Nigerian business people can be granted a 5-year multiple entry visa. In addition, tourists from Nigeria are now able to apply for a visa without even submitting a passport.
It was this year that we saw Chidima Adetshina almost usurp the Miss South Africa title using dodgy papers. Throughout the year 2024, just like many other years, we have seen our Nigerian brothers show no respect or love for our people. Time after time, we see them trade drugs on our streets and destroy the lives of South African boys and girls, our men and women. The drug dealers I know and see in my neighborhood are Nigerians. Everyone knows this to be a fact. There are countries that have tried to be nice to Nigerians only to reverse their decisions after seeing the effect of being nice to this country and its citizens.
Members of the Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Affairs have raised concern of what they say are inefficiencies in the passport office of the Immigration Directorate in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The MPs who recently visited Uganda's foreign mission in Asia and United Arab Emirates on matters of accountability said in China, the police have arrested 9 Nigerians for alleged criminal activities, including illegally holding Ugandan passports.
And the concern was also again sounded by the Ugandans in the diaspora, the way non-Ugandans are acquiring passports. And we found that about 9 non-Ugandans of Nigerian origin had our passports.
But what we're saying, how do these people get passports? That's the only issue. They get passports illegally and in bulk.
This is not xenophobia. It is not xenophobic to mention that the bad Nigerians have created a bad reputation for the rest of the Nigerians. It doesn't matter anymore that they are also good Nigerians. My experience has been that they are too far in between. These are people who are brutal in their business practices, remorseless and destructive in their pursuit of money. Look at the damage that they've brought into our country without visa requirements being relaxed for them. Now imagine how much worse it will be with relaxed requirements. Ronald Lamola was interviewed and asked to clarify what the president was trying to say regarding the issue of not submitting passports, and this is what he said.
The president was speaking about there's no longer a requirement for passports if you apply for this tourist visa. What does it mean?
Yes, and that's what I clarified earlier on, Adrian, that is the initial stage of the application for a visa. For example, as I've said, if you do it online, it may be difficult to submit the passport. But once the visa process has been approved, your visa, there is still a requirement for the tourists to submit the passport in our mission there in Nigeria, to then be able to be the passport to be stamped with the visa and for the person to then travel. The president was speaking of largely the process and what informs this aspect. Therefore, we are providing the details of that, and I believe also Home Affairs will be able to further clarify and give certainty to the travelers from Nigeria.
What kind of a dull answer is that? Why would it be difficult to submit a passport online? Why? You scan your passport and send through the PDF of your scanned passport. We then have to take that submitted scan and verify that it is a legitimate passport. What is so difficult about submitting a passport when applying online? Seriously, imagine the logic. We have to process the visa and approve it for you before you submit the passport. How does it make sense to go through the work, like all the work, and then at the final moment ask for the passport? Guys, do you see what I mean when I say that the country is being run by fools, crooks, and degenerates? President Cyril Ramaphosa and his cronies are clearly very, very sick. The way I see it, this is about some other dirty deals going on underground. There is no way that Cyril Ramaphosa and the ANC do not know that South Africans are unhappy about the Nigerian problem in this country. There is no way. Who does not know that Nigeria has been behind the rise in drug circulation since 1994? We did a video on this, so please watch it if you haven't already. And while you're at it, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and share with other citizens.
Also, travelers from our country seem to Nigeria, which we continue to encourage because we want to see more of people-to-people interaction between the two countries. The people-to-people interaction has been also excellent between the two countries.
This ANC talking head even says that the people-to-people interactions between our two countries have been excellent. Where is he talking about? Who is he talking about? Our people are tired of Nigerians here. They want to see Nigerians interacting more with South Africa. The same nation that has rotten our country with drugs and corruption. That one. That's the one you're embracing even more. Meanwhile, when South Africa messes up in other countries, it is banned. So anyway, what is the media from Nigeria believing this to be? Let's listen.
Nigeria and South Africa have agreed to finalize a 5-year-old memorandum of understanding on an early warning mechanism to monitor and prevent violence as well as criminal acts involving nationals from both countries. The MOU, aimed at addressing past attacks on Nigerians in South Africa, will be signed by March of 2025.
Turns out the Nigerians believe this is an agreement signed to address past attacks on Nigeria. By the way, we listened to this entire video and guess what? There was no mention of Nigerians dealing drugs. These journalists from Nigeria won't acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, their relatives in South Africa might be getting in trouble because of something real. Apparently, Nigerians have suffered at the hands of South Africans.
It's deficit that has brought up this early warning system. Because Nigerians have suffered a lot in South Africa, particularly traders, because most of the things that Nigerians do in South Africa and most of African countries is trading. And we have been embarrassed, harassed, even sometimes killed unnecessarily. So it's a timely intervention. And it is an action in the right direction so that Nigerians can be free to move and make their ends meet in South Africa.
I mean, really? You can't make this stuff up, guys. Nigerians have suffered, meanwhile our people are addicted to drugs. But hey, Nigerians have suffered. They even call them traders. The media this side is telling us a softer version of whatever it is Cyril is signing over there. There's clearly mixed messaging here. Think about this. South Africa had good relations with countries like Ireland and Britain. South Africa was allowed to enter Britain and many other countries without needing a visa. Visa-free entry into Britain and Ireland was a thing. Many Nigerians and other nationals saw this as a nice opportunity. They either married South African girls on paper and got ID documents which allowed them to get passports, or they did it the simpler way. They simply bribed the foolish and greedy immigration officials from Home Affairs and got fresh South African passports. Britain warned South Africa about this, and yet South Africa didn't fix it. And South Africa now needs visas to enter Britain.
So as of today, South Africans travelling to Ireland on holiday, business or to study must apply for tourist visas as they would for any other destination in the Senchen region or the United Kingdom. This means travellers from South Africa and Botswana, once exempt from this formality, must now make appointments via a local agency, submit comprehensive paperwork and pay fees to both the agency and the Irish consulate.
This is not primarily because of South Africans travelling there. It is because of the ANC's failure and because of the foreigners who take advantage of our poor security. They bribe their way into getting new passports. They leave the country and taint the South African name overseas.
Immigration Officer Kerry McVeigh and her team are at the address of a man they believe has overstayed his visa by more than a year.
Sir, I can't see you standing there. Open the door now.
The target today is a man named John Moses.
Hi there.
It's immigration. If you just want to order me, please.
Have a chat with you, okay? Yes. Okay, what's your name, sir?
My name is Olatunde.
Olatunde.
Olatunde Ishola.
And your date of birth?
26. 26th of
The 26th of what? What month? You're not giving me a date of birth. Can you sit down for me? Sit down.
No, I just want to tell you.
Who's that person? Mr. John Moses.
That's my uncle.
That's your uncle?
Yeah.
And where is your uncle at the moment?
She's not around. I mean, he's not around.
He's not around. Are you sure it's not you?
No, it's my uncle.
Alright, okay.
Meanwhile, the ANC is made up of cowards and greedy people who are too scared to call Nigeria to order, to deport Nigerians or put the interests of us, the citizens, above their friendliness with foreign leaders.
Are you going to give me a date of birth, Olatunde?
I don't know. I don't know because I don't.
Okay, have you got a passport?
My house. Eh?
Passport?
Sorry?
Do you have your passport in this address?
I lost my passport.
You lost your passport. Have you got a photocopy? Any identification whatsoever?
Identification? I lost my passport.
Right, can you just listen to me just now, Olatunde, okay? I'm arresting you as a suspected immigration offender. You're now under arrest.
He claims to have no form of ID, something the enforcement team have heard many times before.
Nigerians don't just do this in South Africa. They will do it in any country they end up in. They will rot it and take.
A valid document will confirm if he's telling the truth or not.
Oh. Okay, we've now found a South African passport with the gentleman that we have arrested's photograph in it and the name Patrick Agbo, but I believe that passport's not genuine. He's told us he's from Nigeria and his photograph is now in a South African passport, and now we have evidence that the gentleman we have arrested has been using the name Patrick Agbo. May not be his real name, but we know he's been using it.
Yes?
It's not my own.
That's not yours. I'll remind you that you're under arrest, okay? You're under caution, so anything you do say will be noted and maybe used in evidence, okay? So I'm going to ask you now, is this your passport?
It's not my passport.
It has your picture in it.
It's not me.
That is your picture.
It's not my picture. That is not my passport. I'm not the one inside. I'm not the one outside.
Can I just maybe point out that you do have a marking on your face which is also present in this picture?
It's not me. It's not me.
You're telling me that's not your picture when I can see that it is. I know you don't come from South Africa, but you're in possession. You're in possession of a South African passport, and I need to know why you've got it. Okay?
From John Moses to Oyatunde, then now he's Patrick Agbo, a South African. Do we have any Agbos in South Africa? Which tribe are they from? Zulu? Sotho? Somewhere in South Africa is an ANC minister or a Home Affairs official who got 10,000 or 5,000 to allow for this man to get his South African passport. Once he got his papers, off he went to destroy another country.
A lot of people we encounter do have various identities. It's easier for them to get benefits or medical aid under another name.
I don't get benefit from you.
I'm not saying you, I'm saying a lot of people we encounter, once they exhaust one name and they're still trying to stay in the country illegally, they'll just try to adopt another name and start using that.
Where are you from?
Huh?
Where are you from?
You have my passport.
I said, where are you from?
I'm from Nigeria.
From what city in Nigeria?
From Enugu City.
And why do you have all these drugs in your apartment?
Listen to me, I don't have them. I have my goods.
You lie, you
Listen,
lie!
I cannot lie for you, my brother. I cannot lie. I used to make my good business in Thailand. Only little did I know that they gave me problem. That led me into this. But I'm sorry, I will never repeat it again. I will never repeat it again. Please, please.
The drugs are in your pocket.
Yeah, they are in my pocket.
This is a very large amount of ice.
I'm sorry.
Guys, I can tell you right now, if this passes, there will be a serious takeover of everything that you thought you could put your hands on. It's not a nice thing to say this, but again, facts first, cry later. South Africans are known for being lazy, uninformed, and honestly, not wealthy. South Africans are very much spoilt and docile in matters regarding business, economics, or even history. Cyril Ramaphosa doing this will allow the influx of people hungrier and more driven than South Africans. These are people who will bribe their way into anything. That is one of the reasons why you see that our institutions have become so untrustworthy. If this has not stopped, within a short time, Nigerians will own more land than South Africans. Nigerians will own more business properties than South Africans. I mean, they are already landlords in many properties in South Africa. How do you expect normal citizens to compete with drug money? Drug money has been buying houses and building flats to rent out to South Africans. Drug money has been used to buy ID cards.
There's a Nigerian based in Cape Town. He owns 800 RDP houses. Our people are paying rent to him. Now, you must tell me, what type of government do we have? There's others here. When I campaign, when you go to Terfontein, our people are renting houses from Nigerians. What type of government do we have?
But clearly that's a policing issue as well.
No, it's a leadership issue. It's a leadership issue. If you are not leading for the police to do what's right, then you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
I went with the MMC of Public Safety last week, Saturday, to Hillbrow and to UV. People are renting from Nigerians. A guy said there's a Congolese guy who comes here once a month to collect money for rent. And at the back of that house, they're selling drugs.
Sure.
And you say, our government knows these hotspots.
With what happened with Chidima, you would expect President Cyril Ramaphosa to actually use his head to think about the country of his people. Men like Cyril Ramaphosa will sacrifice all their people and their family for selfish interests. We saw it during the Marikana days. You remember concomitant action? Even the Phala matter shows us that he lacks morals and decency. American currency entered South Africa without being declared. It was either smuggled into the country or it was simply carried using those VIP diplomatic tapes they put on politician bags to avoid being searched. Similar to what we saw Zimbabwean officials do on the Gold Mafia documentary. Cyril Ramaphosa is not a poor man, mind you. With loads of money in his name, he is still willing to squeeze even harder just to be a few bucks richer. That Phala money was supposed to have been taxed. It wasn't. The taxes could have gone to the government to help build our country, but even with his presidential job and many other holdings and investments, he can't bring himself to do the right thing, paying taxes like all of us. He just cannot do with parting with money. That is the mindset of Cyril Ramaphosa. When you think of that, you realize that this announcement regarding Nigerians, it's actually within character. He's clearly doing exactly what he's good at, not giving a damn about his own people. Cyril Ramaphosa has done virtually nothing for the people in his time as president. I mean, if you think about it, there is nothing that he has done for us. If and when he takes action, it is after weeks or months of citizens complaining about a matter on social media. Sometimes even in the midst of the complaints from his citizens, he remains quiet as if he doesn't exist. Oh, but when it is time to make nonsensical deals with Nigeria, he regains his voice. How do you approve people's visas without a passport? Even worse, Nigerians. The GNU members need to speak out now about this. Gayton McKenzie, Peter Groenewald, Velinkosi Hlabisa, Leon Schreiber, and the rest show us that you are there for the people. These are the issues you need to come out and say where you stand. Speak up more and more.
Okay, this goes back to the Q movement kicked off shortly after Kennedy's death, JFK's death in '63, so it's been going for 60 years. There's a group of military officers who determined that if a president could be assassinated, they're in bad shape. And so slowly they started to build up a team of senior officers who decided that something had to happen. Now at some point, they're looking at options as all military officers do when they're planning. And they don't say right and wrong. When they do a plan, they work out what's workable and what's not. Is this workable? Yes. Is this workable? Yes. Is this workable? Yes. Is this workable? So they're looking at workable options to save the United States. One of the options was a military coup d'etat. Literally, just take it over, clean up the filth, and then hand it back to the people. That was rejected, as was when we were looking at it in Australia before we even knew about white hats. We determined that coup d'etat or a violent uprising would create such a wound that it would never be healed, and that's if it succeeded. And if it didn't succeed, then it would give the black hats every opportunity to do what they wanted to do, because the people just didn't believe it. They don't believe it now. After all that's occurred, the people still don't believe there's something odd going on. And so they decided to go the slow way, not unlike the communists who had the same problem after World War II, and they were deciding, do they have an armed violent revolt, the communist revolution, or do they do what Antonio Gramsci did, the Italian communist in the 20s advised, which was the slow march through the institutions. And so they decided to penetrate the institutions, the universities, the schools, the media, the unions, business, the politics, the judiciary, the constabulary, the military. That's what they did. They penetrated the lot. And so they grew and grew, and they worked undercover, and some had to go work undercover, and undercover's a dirty business because you do the dirty things with dirty people to prove your bona fides. And it's based largely on Marines and Navy. And there are somewhere between 200 and 300 flag ranking officers, which is general rank, Marines and Navy, and other services too, but it's strongly based on the Marines and the And they've been working behind the scenes to penetrate, understand, and then when the time came, begin to undermine the black hats, the deep state. So that's what it is. And that's what Q is. And they've had to do that. And these guys, and when there's two or three hundred generals and admirals, that doesn't mean 200 or 300 people. Each one of those people controls a large swathe of capability, if that makes sense. And so that means you've got large amounts. And so it's taken time to select the right people that are trustworthy, because undercover work is hugely risky. And that's who it is. That's who's actually doing it. And these guys are just good soldiers that know what's right and what's wrong, what's lawful, what's not. And that's why they have pursued this in a completely lawful way. So when history reviews what they did and how, you can actually read Law of War. You can read the Law of War, and that's the rule they're following. They're following the rules. They didn't do anything outside the rules. They made sure that what they did was correct in law. President Trump is still the president, and as you might have heard Derek Johnson say several times, there's two separate organizations. One is the government and one is the military. Now, he's the president of the government, but he's also commander-in-chief of the military. And the military is the organization that holds the final cards in their hands, because they control things that go bang. And it's an in extremis situation where you don't pull that lever until you need to, but it got to the point where they said, okay, we're going to do this now. And so they recruited Trump, the Q movement, the generals and admirals recruited Trump. You're going to become president, but you have to win it legitimately. We can't place you in there. You've got to win it. And once you're in, here's the plan. And Trump had a look at it and he said, okay, let's go. And so he is a real, genuine, legitimate president. He's a real, genuine, legitimate commander-in-chief. He has real authority, and they cannot act without his authority. And so it's a delicate game they've been playing. So that's what's been going on. And we can say that because the people who don't want to believe it, don't want to believe it, and they never will, and that's fine. And the rest of us know this is the truth. And so I hope that answers your question. It's been a long, slow journey in the process. If you look carefully, you will find things online like General Mattis, who was head of the Marines, with all his senior officers taking a happy photograph, all holding a mug. And guess what letter of the alphabet was on that mug? There's another photograph where they're in a big circle and there's a little line coming out. So this is real. Whether you want to believe it or not, not you, but if people want to believe it or not, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. It's moving ahead. And when they say nothing can stop what's coming, nothing can stop what's coming. The forces at play are beyond the Masonic filth's comprehension.
In the history of mankind, it's not just America. Over 130 countries representing 98% of the GDP, global GDP, are currently developing or testing or getting ready to implement digital currencies. China has already launched its digital yuan. Europe is preparing for the digital euro. And even the United States is currently exploring and moving to the digital dollar. And it's not just governments. The largest financial institutions, BlackRock, Fidelity, HSBC, and Standard Chartered, they're quietly preparing. They're on the brink of transferring trillions of dollars down into the digital currency assets and cryptocurrency. So why is this even happening? Currently, money is moved around the world on a platform called SWIFT, which on the end, like in your real life, we use fiat, we use paper money. But when you go to the bank, everything on the back end of the bank is handled digitally. It's been that way for a long time. And that's the SWIFT system. But it's slow, it's outdated. And just like we've seen our computers and everything change because of AI and technology that's available today that wasn't even here 5-10 years ago, so is this impacting our entire financial market and the way we can move money. This is the difference. No longer is it going to take you to go to your bank and make a transfer of money, and it takes about 2 to 3, maybe 4 days before it even shows up where it needs to go. Things are going to be done in an instant. This is the future of moving money, and this entire system is about to go live across the world. Right now, there's an opportunity for you. The system's going to have faster transaction, cheaper, much cheaper settlements. Consider those fees that we already pay. Well, look at the government's perspective, or big money. When big money's moved, those little fees add up to a lot of money. And to be able to cut those fees down to like almost nothing, a fraction, that's huge savings right there. That's a game changer in and of itself. And this is going to create a global monetary system that never sleeps. So right now, this infrastructure is being built, and it's soon ready to launch. And this is the beauty of crypto. It's a decentralized platform. It means that the money is back in the power of the people, not just one bank. Not just one bank that could turn off and your money could disappear. It doesn't work that way anymore. When we move to crypto, it's decentralized. It means that there's all kinds of computers around the world that creates ledgers. So that transaction, when you make a transaction, it's communicated to all these different ledgers. It's there as a record. There's no faking it. There's no lying. There's no cheating, stealing. It eliminates all that.
I'm sorry, I'm about to data vomit. First of all, the DTCC, this is $2.5 quadrillion. Their payment system goes live November 23rd, 2025. Why does that matter? The DTCC submitted a patent primarily and exclusively for the use of XRP and XLM for their payment processing system. Now, the U.S. government recently, I promise I'm going to tie all this together, the U.S. government recently purchased the controlling amount of shares in multiple private sector companies. One was rare earth minerals, etc. They're going to be putting that into the sovereign wealth fund. So, if you guys remember in the Clarity Act, it states that Ripple cannot retain more than 20% of the escrow once it's passed. Now, if the U.S. government were to do the same thing that they did with these private company shares, and they purchase a portion of the escrow, that may be why at XRP Las Vegas, why they were talking about oil reserves, where they could maintain the price point by through the escrow by releasing more XRP if the price starts going too high, or reducing it. We've seen leaks out at the World Bank indicating that either $37,500 or $50K per token is the agreed upon price globally. This is a global effort. They've pushed through all of the regulations globally. It's looking pretty fascinating right now. Now, we watch, we wait, right? We all have things that we want to do, but November 23rd is going to be a pretty good day. Obviously, you can Google that, put in the DTCC, the ISO 20022 payment system, and it's going to bring up the November 23rd as the go live date. You guys, if they were to do this, the reason why they would set a specific price for XRP is because they do not want to burn through the supply. At the current price point, it does not work. We're done in 3 to 4 years. And also the amount of XRP that any entity would need to purchase and own is excessive. I mean, think about it. If you want to move $10 trillion and they were to do it all at once, one company would have to own 3.33 trillion XRP in order to do that. It doesn't make sense. So, I love you guys.
Blanked decades of deliberate policies of religious radicalization and economic backwardness. These are the policies that have kept the Mideast in perpetual turmoil. Now, the foreign policy experts said it would never happen, but it did. And this week, we saw the release of the hostages. We saw Donald Trump address the Israeli Knesset to thunderous support. And we saw him in Egypt, meeting with an unprecedented gathering of Arab and Muslim leaders. Pakistan's Prime Minister Sharif made clear who had brought this breakthrough about. And Donald Trump did this with no help from the UN, no help from Europe, no support from global financial institutions or from any quartet of negotiators. Yet somehow the British Education Secretary felt that the UK should take the credit. Well, US Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee had the right response. He said, "She's delusional." But aside from British delusions, not to mention their actual role in creating the crisis, the question that the mainstream media and the so-called experts can't answer is, how did Trump and a team of non-diplomats do what no one else has been able to do? So he negotiated with nations and their leaders directly. He recognized that they all have legitimate interests and that they're not simply colonial pawns on a chessboard. And you're not going to hear this from the press or those social media personalities who tell you that you have to take a side.
Days of darkness, the great blackout, and the final countdown. We are now on the brink of something that's been whispered in digital shadows for years, a massive global operation that may change everything. It's called the 10 Days of Darkness. But make no mistake, this isn't about fear, it's about transition, it's about justice, and it's about taking back control from the deep state machine that has ruled for far too long. What exactly are we talking about? Imagine this. All television networks go dark. Social media platforms suddenly stop working. Internet services cut off or restricted. Your phone doesn't dial out. It's not chaos. It's controlled silence. And in that silence, a new signal emerges. The emergency broadcast system. Direct communication from military leadership, perhaps even President Trump himself. No spin, no manipulation, just the truth. Raw, unfiltered, undeniable. This scenario isn't just fantasy. The infrastructure is in place. FEMA's emergency alert system already gives the president power to take over all airwaves. It's only been tested a handful of times. But it's real, and when activated, it becomes the only voice left broadcasting, guiding the nation through a storm designed not to destroy, but to cleanse. Now ask yourself, why would such an event be necessary? Because what's coming isn't just a blackout of information, it's a blackout for justice. Sources within the military alliance suggest that when the lights go out, arrests begin. Thousands of sealed indictments, global elites, political traitors, pedophile networks, the ones who've pulled the strings from behind the curtain, exposed and neutralized. This isn't guesswork. Military tribunals have been quietly prepared, evidence compiled. This is the moment the deep state has feared for decades. And who will carry out this massive operation? The United States military, with Space Force at the helm. Recently, Space Force assumed control of all Department of Defense satellite communications. That's not routine, that's strategic. And there's more. A classified mission known as Project Odin may be the key. A satellite override system that can shut down mainstream networks and replace them with a secured broadcast feed, potentially powered by Starlink. The truth will no longer be hidden. It will be broadcast globally. But this is about more than just information and justice. It's about financial liberation. During this blackout period, we expect the full activation of the quantum financial system, QFS. Say goodbye to the SWIFT system, to fiat manipulation, to endless debt. QFS is gold-backed, blockchain secured, unhackable. Every transaction is traceable. Every dollar must be tied to a real asset. And when QFS goes live, the old banking system dies quietly in the dark. But it doesn't stop there. Welcome to GESARA, the Global Economic Security and Recovery Act. Under this framework, we're looking at a total reset of the financial system. Debt forgiveness, a currency revaluation, the end of central banking slavery, credit card debt wiped, student loans gone, mortgages forgiven. This is the jubilee that biblical prophets dreamed of, now executed by a global alliance of patriots determined to end economic tyranny. And what comes next? After 10 days, a new dawn, the republic restored, the people empowered, media reborn under truth and transparency. No more propaganda, no more deception, only accountability and freedom. This may sound like fiction to some, but the patterns are there. Strange military drills, global stock sell-offs, elite resignations, blackouts blamed on weather across multiple U.S. states. Coincidence or preparation? Ask yourself, why is the deep state panicking? Why are central banks scrambling for gold? Why are so many elites suddenly silent? Because they know. They've seen the plan. They know their time is up. So what can you do? Stay alert. Stock up. Prepare mentally, emotionally, spiritually. When the blackout comes, don't fear. That silence is the sound of freedom being restored. And when the lights return, You'll be living in a world where the corrupt no longer rule, where money is honest, where justice isn't bought, and where your voice actually matters. This isn't the end. This is the beginning of a great awakening. Stay strong, trust the plan, and remember, the best is yet to come.
The body count of the Clintons is well over 100 that they've killed.
The Clintons?
Yes, the Clintons have killed over 100 people. So
because they know it's true.
But everybody knows the body.
Everybody
the Clinton
knows
body
that,
count's about 130.
Yeah.
A ridiculous amount of people very close to the Clintons have died. And but you're just not allowed to. You didn't say the Clintons have murdered these people. You went, hey, what's up with this? And just the moral, condescending to you as if this was some outrageous offense. We're not allowed to even think of the possibility that maybe politicians have people murdered. Now who's being naive, Kay? You know, that famous line from The Godfather. Look, these people, the Clintons, these are people who we all know have had people murdered in mass numbers. We just call that foreign policy. We just call that when they decide we're going to go on a bombing campaign in Iraq, as Bill Clinton did throughout both of his terms, had a massive blockade around Iraq where the UN estimated 500,000 children starved to death. Okay? This was the UN's estimates. I'm not sure if they're right or not. But the idea that people who do that for a living would be so uncomfortable also off the clock, being yeah, I'm okay with this guy being killed, is not that wild of a jump to me. And if you want to do a deep dive into it, I'm not going to go full Alex Jones here, but there's a lot of very suspicious deaths around the Clintons, and it's totally fair to bring that up.
You know, there actually used to be a website called the Clinton Body Count, which ran a tally of the people that Hillary and Bill had secretly killed. It was over 90 people. She should demand it be brought back and say, stop lying about my record. I've killed way more than that.
The background is that for decades there have been conspiracy theories about Vince Foster's death, theories that perhaps the Clintons had something to do with it. Nothing along those lines was ever proven. There was never any evidence of that, but it does still lurk in the dark recesses of the web.
How did you kill Jeffrey Epstein? Because you're not in power, but you have all the power.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is raising questions about the killing, offering a big reward for information, and that is fueling political conspiracy theories.
As a 27-year-old works for the DNC, who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
Another man connected to the DNC is found dead less than a month after the murder of DNC staffer Seth Conrad Rich. One America's very own Rachel Roboto tells us more about the mysterious death of Sean Lucas and his involvement with the party's email scandal.
End of unconfirmed. Yes, we came, we saw, he died. Did it have anything to do with your visit? No, I'm sure.
She is being so protected. She could walk into this arena right now and shoot somebody with 20,000 people watching right smack in the middle of the heart, and she wouldn't be prosecuted.
Remember John F. Kennedy Jr.? He was declared the front-runner for the New York Senate seat back in 1999. Days later, his plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, and his rival, Hillary Clinton, was elected senator. Mary Mahoney was a Clinton White House intern. She knew enough of the inner workings of Bill's sexual advancements to be a star witness during the Clinton impeachment trials. She was brutally executed at a Starbucks she was managing in 1997. In 1993, White House counsel Vince Foster was found dead in Fort Marcy Park near D.C. He supposedly killed himself, and among a lengthy list of potential foul play, the bullet was never found. Then there's James McDougal, a key witness for White House prosecutors. He was serving his 3-year sentence for bank fraud at the Fort Worth Federal Medical Center in Texas. And just before he was to give a testimony before the grand jury, McDougal suffered a heart attack in solitary confinement. In 2015, Walter Scheib, a White House chef hired under Bill Clinton, joined the list. His body was found at the bottom of a river, nearly 2 miles from the base of the trail he was reportedly hiking. An autopsy determined that Scheib's death was accidental drowning. but he might have known too much. 27-year-old Democratic National Committee staffer Seth Rich was shot and killed in D.C. this year. There is speculation that he was the source of the controversial leaked emails allegedly sent by DNC staffers, and that he may have been murdered in retaliation. Then Sean Lucas, the lead attorney in a fraud case against the DNC, was found lying on the bathroom floor by his girlfriend when she returned home on August 2nd. His death was reported classified, pending the results of an autopsy.
Of DNC staffer Seth Rich, who was murdered last summer. A federal investigator telling Fox News that an FBI forensic report of Rich's computer showed he made contact with WikiLeaks through a former reporter and London-based WikiLeaks director, Gavin McFadden. The investigator told Fox News Rich provided McFadden with more than 44,000 emails, nearly 18,000 attachments. Rich was murdered near his D.C. home on the morning of July 10th, but his wallet, his cell phone, his watch not taken. WikiLeaks 12 days later published internal emails showing top DNC officials trading ideas on how to hurt Senator Bernie Sanders at the polls, and those emails resulting in the resignation of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was the chair of the DNC, and the DNC's 3 top officials because of the obvious conclusion portrayed in those emails.
The stuff that you're sitting on, is an October surprise in there? Do you even know what you're sitting on?
WikiLeaks never sits on material. Whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material, and often very significant risks. As a 27-year-old works for the DNC, who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. So
what are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean,
we don't comment on who our sources are.
But why make the suggestion about a young guy being shot in the streets of Washington?
Because we have to understand how high the stakes are in the United States, and that our sources are, our sources face serious risks. That's why they come to us, so we can protect their anonymity.
But it's quite something to suggest a murder. That's basically what you're doing.
Well, others have suggested that. We are investigating to understand what happened in that situation with Seth Rich. I think it is a concerning situation. There's not a conclusion yet. We wouldn't be willing to state a conclusion, but we are concerned about it. And more importantly, a variety of WikiLeaks sources are concerned when that kind of thing happens.
This is a guy who is a real Bernie Sanders supporter, open Bernie Sanders supporter who worked for the DNC. The DNC absolutely rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders. He was aware of this. He was there while this was all going down. So was Donna Brazile. Everyone was aware of it. The guy got fucking murdered after he leaked information to WikiLeaks. If you don't think that's a little weird, what are you looking at? What delusional rose-colored glasses are you looking at your party from? You think you're in some Julia Roberts movie from 1990? This is real shit. Some guy got killed. He was 24 years old. He was a young guy who was very optimistic and had this view of the world where the guy fucking wore American flag pants and shirt. There's a famous picture of him with a beer on. He's a patriot in a lot of ways. He wanted to be involved in the political process. He was very idealistic. He was probably shattered by finding out that the party that he was working for was corrupting the democratic process. And because I've said this before, I've been accused of helping Donald Trump win by really wacky people online, by pointing out all the flaws of Hillary Clinton. Look, man, you can't ignore that shit because you want one side to win. I've talked about all of his flaws too. There's a lot of flawed human beings that run for president, pretty much all of them. I mean, it's very rare you have someone who's not flawed.
Right.
We're extremely flawed. We're all flawed, but extremely flawed who wants to be the fucking king of the world. It's very rare. Listen, man, I'm not a fucking reputable person.
That's what I try to tell
my
people.
Political ideologies. I mean, I'm just not. I'm not that well read when it comes to politics. I have my opinions on things, but when it comes to things that are rock solid and clear, like that Seth Rich was murdered and people want to ignore it, I'm like, what the fuck do you think happened? There has to be some sort of a disconnect here. When a person is giving information to WikiLeaks that exposes corruption inside the very organization that's responsible for the fucking Democratic Party, and he gets murdered, and you're like, oh, the conspiracy theories. No, he got murdered. There's no conspiracy. It was a botched robbery. Says who? Says who? Where's his? How come his wallet was there? How come his watch was there? How come they didn't take his phone? What the fuck are you talking about that I'm a conspiracy theorist when I just tell you the facts? So and this WikiLeaks thing with Julian Assange is the craziest shit ever. When he said there's consequences to sharing information with us. He works for Russia now. He works for Russia. So he was the darling of the left when Obama was in office.
So isn't that
Remember?
amazing? That's so Julian Assange, he's just a great news guy who's tough as nails.
He can't leave. He's stuck in the Ecuador embassy
By the
forever.
way, that case was so fucked.
So fucked.
So fucked. He's been so fucked, and it's because the CIA wants him so bad, and they control everybody. And now they're trying. They have influence over Ecuador, and they're trying to fuck. They're trying to get a Halliburton guy to be their new. Anyway,
they might just blow up that place.
The gas leak. No doubt, right? I wouldn't be surprised if shit like that happened.
If more stuff comes out, like the Seth Rich stuff, the amount of people, and this is where I leak any conspiracy. The amount of people connected to the Hillary Clinton organization, to the Clinton Foundation, to Bill Clinton, the amount of people that have been iced is stunning. But then some of them are bullshit and coincidental, and you know people, and they're in a weird job, and people get. There's a lot of people that have been killed. A lot.
The timing is so interesting here. The week that this breaks on Fox News in a story they later had to retract and acknowledge was didn't meet their editorial standards, Sean Hannity is shouting it from the rooftops. What's going on that week? It's the week that Mueller is appointed. It's the week Comey is fired. It's when the Russia story is blowing up. What better way to deflect from the Russia story than to point the finger at this, this guy in Washington who was shot in an armed robbery? It wasn't the Russians, it was Seth Rich. That's what, that was the whole subtext of what Sean Hannity was pushing that week. And who does he have on? Jay Sekulow. Didn't say it at the time. Sekulow had just been named as Trump's lawyer in the Russia investigation. And he's saying, what is he saying on Fox News? This undercuts the whole Russia narrative. That was the message they were pushing.
So the predicate for all of this, I think, maybe even earlier, but to my knowledge, late in the summer of 16, with the hacking of the DNC and the emails from the DNC. And the FBI never investigated it, never investigated the actual, the physical removal of this data from their servers. Instead, a company called CrowdStrike, which worked for the Democratic Party, did. And then exactly at that moment, or right around that moment, a DNC staffer was killed in Washington, D.C. in an apparent robbery in which nothing was taken from him that I happen to know for a fact the MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department, thought was like bizarre. And they kind of didn't believe it. A Fox News host went on air and asked questions about this killing. Why wouldn't you? And the parents of the man who was killed either sued or I think they sued. They certainly threatened to sue and basically scared the crap out of everyone. So no one's ever asked a question about it since.
They hired a private investigator who looked around in that case, I remember. And there were some odd details there. The FBI ended up in possession of his laptop. And then
why would the FBI wind up in? I mean, this is a local crime, right?
Yeah, this was one of the first reasons I started to look at that case because I got a call from somebody about that, and I don't know why that was the case, but it is the case. And
there were people at the DNC, one of whom I know, who thought that he was murdered for political reasons at the DNC. A very high-ranking person of the DNC told me that. And I probably should just say, but everyone can guess who it is who's informed on this, but I don't want to betray confidence, but I'm not making this up. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what happened, but like, as far as I know, not one person has looked into that in the media.
No, and even if it is just an unsolved murder of a type that they normally solve, the whole situation, that whole timeline was very strange. It doesn't really make sense. The hacking of the DNC, the bringing in of CrowdStrike, when the information was released online, they never really proved that case, but they immediately made inferences about it. And there was an incredibly sophisticated kind of public campaign to create this narrative that, upon closer examination, turns out not to be true. So we got to go back and find out what did exactly happen there.
The Clinton body count, which is the strange number of suicides that seem to happen in Clinton circles. I have a headline here from the Washington Post that said, Trump peddles false conspiracy theories tying the Clintons to several deaths. So I just wanted to highlight real quick, this wasn't in Trump's video, but this is from the Arkansas Times, and it's the death of Mark Middleton, who was a former Clinton White House aide, who was found dead on a Clinton Foundation property. And I'll just quote from the Arkansas Times. Middleton apparently shot himself in the chest with a shotgun and also hung himself from a tree with an extension cord. So I have no idea how somebody commits suicide that way, but if the Washington Post is here, maybe you can enlighten us as to how that was actually a suicide. So anyways, that's just a lead into my question about the most famous Clinton-related suicide, which is that of Jeffrey Epstein.
So today we're going to look at yet again another mysterious ending to a former Clinton associate, Mark Middleton, a 59-year-old longtime special advisor for the Clinton administration when he was president, who it appears in the 1990s served as a conduit between Clinton and the late billionaire Jeff Epstein, arranged at least 7 of the 17 visits that Epstein made to the White House, and flew on the Lolita Express several times himself, according to Daily Mail. Mark Middleton was a family man. He had a family-owned Middleton Heat and Air HVAC business. Oh, businessman, probably had plenty of money, was doing fine, in fact had really nothing to gain by working for the Clintons, apparently. But here's where it gets weird. Sometime on May 7th, Mark Middleton decided to drive 30 miles away from his home to the Heifer Ranch in Perryville, and both hung and shot himself with a shotgun at the same time. He reportedly used an extension cord as a noose and created a makeshift gallows underneath the tree, which appeared to be there as a failsafe in case a shotgun blast didn't end him. So apparently he went to this ranch, a place he had allegedly never been before and had no reason to be at, found a tree, pulled a table over there, got on that table, took an extension cord, put it around a limb, put it around his neck, and shot himself in the chest with a shotgun somehow, and then dropped with the extension cord around his neck just to make sure that he would end it all. That's pretty elaborate. I don't know if you've ever seen what a shotgun can do to a pumpkin, but I wouldn't really worry about surviving a close-range shot from one of those. Ranch workers found Middleton's car in the parking lot and notified the sheriff, and his body was found shortly afterwards. He was not invited to the property, and the staff contacted the sheriff because he was there without authorization. And again, there has been no links established to why he would have ever traveled to that ranch in the first place. A terrified business associate of Middleton has reportedly said, "Everyone that I know here that has worked with Mark knows it's physically impossible for him to have ended himself. He could not physically hold a shotgun and done that to himself. He knows nothing about guns. He hated guns. He couldn't have tied a noose to save his life. The man couldn't even change a light bulb by himself. He was the least physically skilled person I have ever met in my life. He was very smart, great with paperwork, legalities, and all of that, but he couldn't physically take care of himself." And now his family, his father and his wife, are fighting to keep photos and other illustrative content sealed. They have filed an injunction arguing that blocking the release of the footage would halt a proliferation of unsubstantiated conspiracy theories. You think that's going to make it seem less conspiratorial?
The Clinton body count has become the butt of many jokes online because of how massive and extensive this list has become over the years. It is an ever-growing list that have documented the Clinton body count as a phenomenon. And it is a phenomenon of people that have died in mysterious circumstances surrounding the Clintons, and we will go ahead and document as many of them as we can, and as many of them as exist now, as this list is ever growing.
This is the one that's kind of weird, and first thing I ask myself is, how the hell is our guy here, Anthony Weiner, still alive? What do you mean by that? Well, when you go through the list of people that have been close to Hillary Clinton and the Clintons and the Deadpool, this is not a conspiracy. You got the names of James McDougal, okay, Clinton's convicted Whitewater partner, died of an apparent heart attack. You know, Mary Mahoney, a former White House intern, was murdered July 1997 at a Starbucks coffee shop in Georgetown.
Ron Brown, he died in a plane crash.
Vince Foster
What is
was
this?
Vince Foster was the next one. By the way, the James Dougal was a key witness in a key Ken Starr
Ron
investigation.
Brown was in a plane crash. Why is he on the list?
Ron Brown is another one, but there was a close person to this. Victor Razor, you got Paul Tooley, Ed Woolley.
Wait a minute, you're reading a list of people that Bill and Hillary Clinton knew. They're 80, they're 70-something years old.
I'm asking you this question. I'm asking you this question and an answer at the end. So you got Jerry Parks, Jane Bunch, James Wilson, Kathy Ferguson, Bill Shelton, Candy Bow, Florence Martin, Susan Coleman, Paula Grober, Danny Casolero, Paula Wilker, John Parnell Walker, Barbara Weiss. We should verify this yourself because you're running a radio show. You should look it up. Charles Meisner, Dr. Stanley Hurd, Barry Beal, Barry Seal, Johnny Lawhorn,
Can you read me the URL you're reading? Can you read me the URL you're reading?
We'll send you the most credible source you can look it up.
Know what you're reading.
We'll put the link below. We'll put the link below.
Just tell me so I know what I'm responding to.
Herschel Friday, Kevin Ivey, Dan Henry, Keith Coney, and these were part of the Ivy Henry case. Keith McCaskill.
What's the Ivy Henry case?
You can look it up. Ivy Henry case. So Gregory Collins, Jeff Rhodes, James Milland, Richard Winter, and then you got the close bodyguards, Major William Barkley, Captain Scott Reynolds, Brian Hanley, Tim Sable, General William Robertson.
You don't even know what you're reading a list of. How is this
Densberger, Robert Kelly, Colonel Gary Rhodes, Steve Wills, Robert Williams, Conway LeBlue, Todd McKeon. I'm done. It's 46 names. And
of what? Can you read me the list? Can you read me the URL so I know what you read a list of before I answer any questions about it?
When I finish this, still in the storm.com. So here's the question for you, because millions of people are not convinced Hillary Clinton is a good person.
Again, with the other people, millions
including
of people.
myself. How is it when you think about other candidates? Okay, everybody has a stereotype. You have a reputation whether you like it or not. What's your reputation? Your reputation is you like to text underage girls and you like to talk to girls and you sex sending pictures of your dangling. That's your reputation. Whatever you do, you can't do anything about it. Adam has a reputation. Adam is a playboy in Miami.
You better get back to that list of strangers you read a list
Trust me,
of.
I'm getting back to it. How is it that in the last 50 years, we don't have a single candidate? Everybody has their own. Hey, John F. K. was a playboy with Marilyn Monroe. Trump, Karen McDougal, Stormy Daniels. You know, George Bush linked to 9/11 and weapons of mass destruction. Bill Clinton linked to Arkansas women, all this others. Everybody has a reputation. How is it that the reputation that follows them is people close to them die?
President Donald Trump, I am very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel and all surrounding nations, and the United States of America. And we thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers. Again, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, out on Truth Social as we were talking there. Ari, put this in historical perspective, knowing all we know about the years and years, decades of turmoil in the Middle East.
Well, what's truly remarkable about this is previous breakthroughs existed between Israel and unique nations, Israel and Egypt, Israel and Jordan. And you had the Abraham Accords expanding it to a wider group of nations, Bahrain, the UAE. But never before have you had an agreement with Hamas, 8 Muslim nations, 7 Arab, 1 nation, Turkey, Muslim nation, Israel, and the United States. That is the breakthrough here. From a humane point of view, it is wonderful and joyous that the hostages will come home. Families can finally, at long last, be reunited. But there are 2 big steps that remain, and those steps are the disarmament of Hamas and Hamas relinquishing control and power. Those 2 are going to be the trickiest ones yet.
Yeah, but see, obviously the Biden administration was working towards this. They didn't have success. This looks like a major breakthrough. We have, Steve Witkoff, the Middle East envoy, and Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, who obviously was crucial in the last administration for the Abraham Accords, the Gulf states